everyone and welcome to this week's weekly reading wrap-up. And despite being off work this week, I have still only finished 2 books. They were great books and I'm not too bothered overall because I'm having such a fantastic reading time right now. I'm just reading a fantastic book after fantastic book. So the first book I finished was Bertie the Blips Dog by Libby Parker. And I received this book from the publisher via NetGalley, and oh my goodness, is this just such a cute read. This book follows a dog named Bertie during World War II, specifically when London was getting bombed a lot around the Blitz basically. And the story is told from Bertie's perspective, which makes this story absolutely adorable. It did have a couple of problems, which is why I gave this book 4 stars rather than 5, but for the most part, I loved this book so much. I really was like, oh, I want a Bertie all of my own. So the story starts with Bertie living with his very elderly owner, and she sadly passes away while he is on the bed. And oh, that bit was just heartbreaking. It's so heartbreaking, oh my goodness. And then you follow Bertie as he tries to find his way now that he hasn't got an owner. Someone would have taken him in, but he didn't want to be taken in by that person, so he's ran away. He's in the middle of London just as war is about to break out, and he's trying to find somewhere to live. And he ends up in a couple of different places before settling somewhere, and oh, it's just such a heartwarming tale, but also really sort of informative. There were so many things in this book that I didn't actually know about the war back then. Like, I didn't know that it was frowned upon to keep pets because they are another mouth to feed. Bertie is another mouth to feed, and with rations that isn't a good thing. And so people frown upon people keeping pets because that's food that a human could have. But I really loved seeing how Bertie sort of fit into the family and helped in his own little way, and just a different perspective on the war. Now, I will say that this perspective wasn't without problems. For starters, sometimes I'd forget that I was even reading from a dog's perspective because it wasn't always clear, and then the author would throw some random little fact in here or there that would make you remember that you're reading from the perspective of a dog. Like, you'd be reading for ages and you'd forget all about it, and then all of a sudden it'd be like, and then such and such scratched my head and it felt really good, or then they gave me a bone, and just like, I feel like it should have been a bit more consistent with that. Also, there's a bit of a storyline towards the end of the book, which again, I won't go into because it's spoilers, but I didn't like how they threw in this extra plot that wasn't necessarily needed. I feel like the book was standing okay on its own, covering what it was covering, and you didn't need to throw in this random dramatic plot just for excitement. I didn't feel like it needed it. It stuck out like a sore thumb to me as just not necessary, basically. Despite that though, this was just a fantastic read. I highly recommend it. It doesn't come out until March the 23rd, so I will upload a full review closer to the time, but keep your eye out for this one. So the other book that I finished this week was, of course, Sophie Kinsella's My Not So Perfect Life. And oh, I just don't have the words for this book. I gave this book 5 stars. Sophie Kinsella is one of my favourite chick lit authors of all time, but this is so much more than just chick lit. This has got like genuine substance behind it. So this story focuses on a girl named Katie, or Kat, or Kath, depending on who you are, or depending on what you know her as. And she is living in London, working in a company and just trying to find her way in London and sort of make a name for herself. And you know, she's not being paid the best wage for living in London, so she lives in a really, really crappy room in a shared house where her storage sort of consists of a hammock. And you know, she's got this boss from hell called Demeter. What a name, Demeter. I think that's how you'd say it. And obviously Katie doesn't really like her boss, but then nor does anyone else, so she just sort of gets on with it. And in her free time, she starts trying to socialise within the people at work, and she takes pictures for Instagram, but they're never accurate pictures. There'll be pictures of like someone else's hot chocolate that she sees, or some other thing to do with someone else, and then she's managed to make it look like it's something of her own. So she's portraying that she's living this wonderful, fantastic, life in London when actually she's struggling, but of course she's not going to say anything. She wants this, she's going to work for it, and yeah. Now her life is going considerably well. There's a guy that she quite likes, and yeah, everything's slowly sort of building up, when all of a sudden she gets fired from her job. Or rather, she gets made redundant. They can't afford to keep her anymore. But the problem is that Demeter doesn't even realise whether she's fired her or not when she first sees her. She's there and she's like, have we talked? And Kat's like, or Katie rather, is like, yeah. And Demeter was like, oh, I couldn't remember whether we had or not. We obviously have then. And then Katie was like, well, of course we've talked to my boss. Of course we've spoken. And then Demeter was a bit like, oh, no, no. And like fires her. To which, of course, Katie is like, this is ridiculous. How can you not remember whether you fired me or not? I'm nothing to you, kind of thing. And I just feel like the plot for this book is just something that many of us can relate to at some point. A lot of us are trying to find our way through life, trying to get into our ideal careers, trying to get into a relationship, trying to just build our lives. And so we get to follow Katie throughout her experience of this. And of course she's struggling in London once she's been made redundant. She applies for job after job after job after job, but in the end she ends up going back home, but not just because she's giving up. There is so much more to it than that, but I will leave the plot side of things there. This is just heartwarming, it's inspiring, it's motivational. There is a relationship aspect with every single Sophie Kinsella book. There is a relationship aspect, but this one, rather being like relationship focused, this one has Katie career focused first, relationship focused second. And not just that, she admits, you know, I can live without this relationship. It's not all about the relationship, it's just I just love this book so much. If you've ever enjoyed any other Sophie Kinsella book, you would definitely enjoy this one. But I personally feel like this is actually the best book I've ever read by her, and I've read most of her books. So if you want to start with any book in particular, I'd recommend this one. And that is all I read this week. I have nearly finished the Rosie project. I've not got it with me right now because it's over there. I'm not going to go and get it just to hold it for 2 seconds and go, this is the book I'm currently reading. I've got less than 100 pages to go. That'll be done with. Probably busy tonight, but definitely tomorrow. And then I'll be reading other books off my Time Hopathon TBR. So we've got Gemina, and then I'll also be reading The Faraway Tree, The Magic Faraway Tree. So it's going to be another good reading week. I've got a few more days off work yet, so plenty of time to get more reading done. Let me know what you've been reading recently, whether you've read any of the books that I've talked about today. Thank you so much for watching. If you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Subscribe if you want to see more book reviews and other bookish content from me. And I will see you on Friday with a book tag. Bye-bye!